are you doing this fine day? Hope you're enjoying your week. Welcome to another survival challenge, in particular, a Marvel survival challenge. Now, let me be clear. This is not the entire universe of Marvel. We're not doing that. We're not bringing in all the cosmic shit. This is just Marvel's Earth. Only Earth and the heroes and villains that exist on Earth. If I start talking about some shit and you're like, oh, but you know, Galactus or Eternity or Death or whatever, not relevant. These characters are specifically going to be conquerors who are coming to Earth to take over Earth, and they only get the things that are on Earth to defend them. And also we'll give them shit that's on the moon too, because there's a bunch of shit on the moon that they have to worry about. But that's about it. Now, a bit of an update before we get started. Last Saturday, the channel held its first ever open debate stream. If you watch my videos and you have any issues with anything I say in either this video or any video that I've done in the past, you are free to come to the stream and debate me. It is open to the public. If you don't want to debate me and just want to debate in general, you can also go and debate other people who show up in the stream. The Discord is down in the pinned comment. And if you enjoy the video, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, share, and join the membership. Remember, if you join the membership, you get videos early. But I'm wasting up your time. Let's get started. Now, this is usually the part where I go into detail about what exactly Marvel Earth is capable of and what our conquerors are going to have to overcome if they want to take over the planets. I'm not going to do that this time because I feel like most people have a pretty solid foundation in their head about what Marvel is capable of, even if that foundation isn't particularly correct. So this time around, instead of going across all of Marvel Comics and just telling you all the shit that they can do and can't do, I'm basically going to preemptively strike against a lot of the opinions that I know people who enjoy Marvel have that I believe are bullshit. So let's get into that. So just to be clear, I'm not saying the Marvel universe doesn't have super broken, overpowered shit. It does. There's a lot of really cool stuff. God Emperor Doom, Worldbreaker Hulk, Rune King Thor, all of this is really cool. What I'm saying is that this shit is usually like one-time power-ups. Like some of these characters were created back in the 60s and the 40s, and these massively powered-up versions of them were used once in one story and were temporary power-ups. And then people talk about Marvel Comics as if this is just like baseline power that Thor and Hulk and Dr. Doom can do at pretty much any time they want to, and that's not true. So if a conqueror came to invade Earth at literally any time that isn't this one fucking storyline, they would not have access to these powers. And if you take all of these one-time power-ups away from the characters, you get a planet of characters who maybe one or two on the whole planet are capable of actually destroying a planet. Yet you have an entire community of people that every single time they talk about the power levels, they talk about them as if all of these characters are like multiversal or some shit. And it's just not true in any way. Like for instance, let's talk about Dr. Doom. Everyone talks about Dr. Doom as if he's a meme character, almost like Batman, where as long as he has prep time, he can overcome literally any challenge that he comes into contact with. This is not true. Anybody who reads Doom comics knows that this is not true. Like I already said, God Emperor Doom was used one time in one story, and people like to give him credit that he stole the powers of the Beyonder. So every time they talk about some sort of fictional story where you put like one super powerful being against Dr. Doom, they're like, okay, well, he could just steal his power like he did the Beyonder. No, he can't, because no, he didn't. It's revealed in a later story that the Beyonder gave his powers to Dr. Doom because it was part of this Machiavellian plan, and it's not important, but the point is that Dr. Doom didn't steal the powers. And even after Dr. Doom had the powers, he's still lost in that storyline. As far as his prep time making him basically unbeatable to literally any character in fiction, which is something that people often talk about, like I said, they compare him to that of Batman. Doom, with or without prep time, has failed more than he has succeeded, and many times it is through being outsmarted. To give just a couple of examples, at one point Doom killed Cassie Lang, the daughter of Ant-Man. Ant-Man was so pissed and told Doom that he was coming for him. Doom had time to prepare for Ant-Man to get there. Even with this prep time, Ant-Man was able to break into Latveria, get all the way to Doom's palace, grab Doom, pull him outside of his palace, and beat the shit out of him in the middle of the fucking town square where hundreds of Latverian citizens were just watching Doom get his ass beat, and there was nothing he can do about it. This was Ant-Man. People like to have these conversations, talk about Dr. Doom, as if fucking Sentry wouldn't be able to break in that bitch and take him. And Ant-Man was able to do it. Back in my Would These Conquerors Survive Latveria video, I had a lot of people commenting down below that characters like Kaido and Aku and all these people would not be able to do anything to Latveria because he's just got so many badass, amazing defenses that he could do. Like, so many people have broken into Latveria and fucked him up. During Secret Wars, 12 separate heroes were able to break into Latveria and get to Doom without him even realizing it. Another instance where he had prep time and failed was with the Intelligentsia. The Intelligentsia are a team of supervillains that are composed of all the smartest villains in all of Marvel, and at one point Doom ripped them all off and really pissed them off. So again, having plenty of prep time, he prepared for the inevitability that the Intelligentsia would strike back. But the Intelligentsia didn't strike back. Only the leader did. Not like the leader of the Intelligentsia, but also the leader as in the supervillain, the leader. He's a Hulk villain. Anyway, he took Doom, sucked out all of his mental energy, and basically turned him into a retard. Not kidding. That is what happened in the story. I could probably go on naming 15, 20 different situations where Doom had plenty of prep time against characters who are not considered all that powerful or even competent, where they completely outsmart him or outplay him in some way. You're talking about the Fantastic Four, Iron Man, Spider-Man, Dr. Octopus. A ton of characters have completely overcome his prep time. So please stop saying that his prep time is worth shit, because it's not. There's a reason why Dr. Doom has consistently failed to do all of the things that he wants to do. He's not that good. And don't tell me it's because of his ego, because you're just giving an excuse for his failures. It doesn't matter what the reason is. The point is that he fails doing everything that he wants to do. So why do you think his ego wouldn't get in the way in any of these sort of fictional conversations that we have? If his so-called ego got in the way of him preparing for Ant-Man to show up and fuck him up, why would he be able to properly prepare for someone like Aku or Kaido, who are far more powerful? It doesn't make any sense. And you can keep going with character after character after character after character. People really over-exaggerate the power of Marvel Universe. It's crazy. They say characters like Hulk and Sentry and Thor are fucking multiversal beings. What? How? Where? What storyline? You pointed me the storyline. Okay, to be fair, do these characters have feats that are like multiversal and shit like that? Yeah, they do here and there, kinda, but never at any point do they do anything even close to this without some kind of amp or some sort of assistance helping them do it. Did you know that none of these three characters have ever even destroyed a planet without an amp or some sort of assistance? If you don't read comics and you're a part of the scaling community, that might come as a fucking shock to you, because everybody talks about it like it's just a normal weekend thing that they do all the time. They don't. Planets don't usually get destroyed in this universe. What are you talking about, Rouga, you might be saying? Hulk destroyed a meteor that was twice the size of Earth. Correction, Hulk was specifically stated to not be able to destroy that meteor, was put into a cannon that fired him at the meteor, and it was the force of the cannon as well as the force of Hulk's punch that was able to shatter it. This knocked Hulk the fuck out and nearly killed him. This is not a casual feat for him. The story specifically states that Hulk would not have been able to do this on his own, that he needed the cannon in order to do this. Otherwise, he would have just jumped up in space and punched it, because we know Hulk can do that. He's done it several times before. What the fuck do you think the point of the cannon was? But Rouga, what about the time Hulk was in another universe fighting that guy and his blows were actually breaking the universe apart? You are correct, that did happen. But you know why that happened? Because Hulk had just absorbed, as the comic states, an entire universe's worth of gamma radiation. He was massively amped when he did that. The only version of Hulk that is capable of destroying a world that is not amped, or an alternate reality version, is World Breaker Hulk form. How do we know this? Because the creator of World Breaker Hulk form straight up fucking told us. He said it directly. And you might be saying, well, okay, even if that is the case, and World Breaker Hulk is the only one who can destroy planets, he still has World Breaker Hulk form. So he can go into World Breaker Hulk form and he can destroy the planet, and boom, there you go. He's still a planet buster. And yes, that would be true if Hulk can just jump into World Breaker Hulk form anytime he wanted to. Can he? No. World Breaker Hulk was initially introduced, I think, back in 2007. Do you know how many times he's entered World Breaker Hulk mode in the comics up to now? Twice. Do you know how many people he's beaten in a fight using World Breaker Hulk mode? 1. Do you know how many planets he's destroyed using World Breaker Hulk mode? 0. He's never done it. Now, it is true during the Heart of the Monster storyline, he does go World Breaker Hulk, and he's so dangerous that he has to be thrown in the dark dimension, and then while he's there, he starts destroying a bunch of planets and shit. That's true. However, he's not just in World Breaker Hulk mode at that point. He's in World Breaker Hulk mode. He is currently fighting against a gamma-radiated Fin Fang Foom, you know, the giant ancient god dragon, as well as a radiated version of Red She-Hulk, and all three of them are amped together by the power of the Wishing Well. It took all of that together to destroy a planet, not just Hulk and not just World Breaker Hulk. Now, do I believe that World Breaker Hulk can destroy a planet? Yes, I do. But it's not something he just casually goes into and starts blowing up planets. He very rarely is able to use the form. You have to drive him to such a point of rage and desperation that he is forced to use it. He can't use it normally. It isn't something he can just switch on and off. But when people have these debates and cover characters like the Hulk, they talk about Worldbreaker Hulk like that's his normal levels of power. When the truth is, we have over 80 years of comic books with the Hulk, and he's only had that power twice. You're talking about hundreds and hundreds of thousands of panels worth of Hulk shit, and maybe less than 10 of those panels actually has him going Worldbreaker? Come on, guys. Sentry, right? Sentry is so powerful, so ungodly untouchable by mortal man. He's not just a planet buster, he's a universe buster or a multiverse buster. Really? Because he hasn't done any of that shit. An alternate reality void taken over version of Sentry was able to destroy a universe. Fine. Okay. Whatever. The main 616 version's never done anything close to that. Not even once. Has Sentry ever destroyed a planet? Yes, he did. He got into a fight in the Microverse with Photon, and both of their powers colliding together was able to destroy Hyperion's planet. Here's the thing about Hyperion's planet, though. It's not the size of a normal planet. This was in the Microverse. If you ever read any stories of the Microverse and see the size of the planets in the Microverse, they're small. They're not super small. They're still planets. They're like somewhere between large moon and Mercury sized. They're not big. They're small. It's the fucking Microverse. And yes, I know it says that the Microverse is the same size as our universe. Yes, that's true, but the planets aren't. The planets are smaller. We see that. That has been confirmed several times. It's a bunch of very tiny planets. So Sentry, the person who people claim to be one of the strongest heroes in all of Marvel, had help from another person with their power colliding, destroyed a small planet. Congratulations. It is far away from the multiversal levels of power that people claim these motherfuckers are. But you don't understand, Rouga. Sentry was stated to have fought Galactus to a standstill. Who gives a fuck? Do you have any idea how many times Galactus has gotten his ass beat by people who are so far below planetary it's not even funny? Kitty Pryde, using some fucking Pym particles to make herself the same size as Galactus, punched him in the face and knocked him out. Pym particles give you a slight strength boost, but it doesn't make you planetary. She got fucking Ant-Man powers and punched Galactus in the face and knocked him out. The Thing knocked Galactus out. You know how he did it? Mr. Fantastic turned into a rubber band between two light poles, and then the Thing just flinged himself at Galactus, hit him in the face, knocked him the fuck out. Is the Thing and Reed Richards fucking multiversal now or planetary? No! Galactus 99.9999999, just keep going up for a really long time, nines. % of the time is nowhere near multiversal, not even planetary. But Rouga, you might be saying, how is he not planetary when Galactus eats planets? Well, yeah, he does, but he doesn't fucking pick it up and munch on it like a taco. He absorbs the life energy out of it, and that gives him the power. He hasn't actually destroyed that many planets with physical power. Thor is so powerful, Rouga. You don't understand. The power of his hits shatters worlds. He once blew up a planet in a single strike fighting Beta Ray Bill. He destroyed the Yggdrasil, which is a multiversal feat because the Yggdrasil is this tree that is beyond space and time. It holds all the 10 realms together that are all universes. When he was a baby, his cries shook the 10 realms. Again, 10 universes. What a crock of shit. All of it. Did he destroy a planet when he was fighting Beta Ray Bill? Yes, he did. Do you know how big that planet was? Because the comic actually shows it. It's only about the size of an asteroid. It's not big at all. Was there a line in the comic where Thor was fighting against Gore that each of his blows shatters worlds? Yes, that was a line. But you know the problem with that is? The planet that Gore and Thor were fighting on was not shattered. And in the very next panel, Thor looks over at the moon that was orbiting that planet, and it was also not shattered. Where is this fucking shattered planet that they're talking about? I'm supposed to believe that Thor's hits on Gore were so powerful it created a shockwave that destroyed several planets with each hit, but that shockwave didn't affect the planet they were on or the moon. It just skipped them over and started destroying planets somewhere else. That's not how fucking shockwaves work. Now, when you look down at the planet, there is this large, like, crack on the surface of the planet that wasn't there before. But based on the way this is drawn, that's all it is. It's just a crack on the surface. That's a long way from shattering worlds. So how do you explain this statement? Simple. It's fucking metaphorical. This is how writing works. It works in the form of metaphors. I was once reading a book. I know, crazy. I've been gay a little bit too, it's fine. In this book, it had two dudes sword fighting. As far as I was aware, these were just human characters fighting normal swords. At one point in the book, it said that this man swung his sword with the force of a meteor down upon this other man. Was I supposed to suddenly think, oh shit, this regular fucking book that I was reading that had normal dudes fighting with swords, now all of a sudden, my entire idea of what I've been reading is totally wrong? They're actually super powered beings? No, it's just a metaphor to give the reader this sort of intense feeling of how much struggle he was putting with each strike. Like if I told you that I punched a guy so hard that his kids are gonna be born stupid, which are you gonna believe? That I punched him really, really hard, or that I punched him so hard that I gave his kids the tards? Context matters, people. What were you thinking when you read that? Well, let's be clear. If you're making this argument, you didn't read this comic. But let's just say theoretically you did read this comic and you read that, okay, Shattering Worlds, cool. That's a fact. And then you look over to the next panel, see the worlds aren't shattered. You just, what? Just fucking don't worry about that? That's not important? Hey, what are you doing? Don't look over there. Look over here. There, that's where it is. That's where it's said. That's a fact. Anything, nope, none of that matters. This panel matters. That panel is non-canon. Because I fucking want it to be. That's why. Thor destroyed the Yggdrasil more than once. That's a multiversal feat. Is it though? You know the Yggdrasil has been destroyed a lot of times. Once it was destroyed by being set on fire. Not magical bullshit, I can burn anything down and destroy universes fire. Just regular fucking fire. I mean, shit, I could destroy the Yggdrasil with a blowtorch. It ain't all that, it's a big tree. In fact, throughout the entire Marvel Comics, they never say that the tree is any more durable than a normal fucking tree. But the tree is the branches of all the different universes. Okay, fine, I believe you. But you know that the tree has been destroyed multiple times, and none of those times did Earth ever get destroyed along with the tree? Doesn't that kind of fuck up your whole theory that it's all a bunch of universes and destroying it destroys all the universes? Earth is Midgard. It's a part of it. When Thor destroyed the tree, one of those times was Rune King Thor, where he erased it from existence, and another time he bashed it and broke the roots out, and then another time it was set on fire. There's a bunch of times that it happened, and none of those times was Midgard destroyed, despite the fact that a Midgard is one of those branches. Where's the explanation, people? It's not a multiversal feat. He destroyed a tree. Awesome. Congratulations, here's a cookie. Black Bolt with a single yell was able to kill 6 Celestials. And Celestials are so powerful. They have universal levels of power. First off, I would say that it's arguable whether or not these motherfuckers have universal levels of durability, even though they are capable of making shit like that. There is really nothing showing that they could take that much force in a single hit. In fact, I would argue that there are several instances of them having far less. Like, for instance, Nowhere being made out of Celestial's head and almost being destroyed on multiple occasions, like Galactus being able to overpower basically all of the Celestials at the same time if he wants to, despite the fact, like I said, we've seen him be knocked out by Kitty Pryde and the Thing. But even if I give that to you and I say that all the Celestials are all universal, with universal levels of durability, this was once again an alternate future timeline version of Black Bolt. 616 Black Bolt's never done anything like this. In fact, this was so over the top, pretty much everyone who read this comic unanimously was like, this is bullshit. Like, people got mad because he was shown doing this, because they'd never seen him do anything even close to this. The biggest thing we've seen him do is when he yelled with all of his might, he severely cracked a small planet. Like, it was some pretty nice cracking. It didn't fucking blow it up, though. And look, I know we're only doing Earth heroes, and I don't want to get too far off topic, but even characters like Thanos. Thanos has never destroyed a planet without help or a buff. He's destroyed 2 planets throughout the entirety of Marvel Comics, not including when he used the Infinity Gauntlet or some kind of technology. Just like him punching a planet, destroying it, he's done it twice. Once was when he had a massive amp, and the second time was when he was fighting Drax, and the two of them together colliding destroyed a planet. So the only thing you could really argue about Thanos physically is that he could probably destroy half a planet on his own. That's not a full planet. And I could just keep going on and on and on, character after character after character. Yes, this one destroyed a universe, but this is why. Yes, this one destroyed a planet, but this is why. This is his amp. This is his help. This is his thing. The reason why people think this is because they're not comic readers. They're fucking scalers. They see a picture on the internet and they take it completely out of context, and they don't even worry about anything that went on outside of that. Are there certain times where characters do certain over-the-top shit? Yeah, sure, it happens all the time. But there's almost always a story reason as to how that shit happened. It's not normal. It's not the basic strength levels of these characters, and it's generally bullshit. Is it possible that somewhere along the line, a character did some really crazy over-the-top shit that isn't really explained how they did it or how they got that strength boost or whatever, and we could just take it as that was just their normal strength? Sure. I mean, I haven't read all of comics. I'm sure there's some stuff out there that I missed that I'm not covering in this video, but many of these characters are 80 years old or even older. And with all of that time of comics, if you can find one or two moments where a character does something that is significantly above the power that they're usually shown to have, I'm not gonna suddenly rewrite the last 80 years of fucking comic book history because one author decided to write them a little more powerful and just completely forget about the rest of it. It's stupid. I'm not gonna do that. That's what scalers do, but I'm not. And if you don't like it, that's what the fucking debate streams are for. So, you know, come on and get your ass kicked. Now, am I saying that there's no characters on Earth that are capable of destroying a planet? No, I'm not saying that. They're there. It's just not this casual, easy thing they can do all the time. It's something that requires a large amount of build-up, and certain things within the story have to happen to allow that to be the case. Like I said, yes, I think Worldbreaker Hulk will be able to destroy planets. That seems very obvious when you're reading the Planet Hulk or World War Hulk story, that is something he's capable of doing. The problem is that it takes a lot for Hulk to actually go into that form. He's only gotten to the point emotionally that he can go into it twice, and then after the Heart of the Monster storyline, he lost the ability to become Green Scar Hulk, which is the only version of Hulk that can actually become Worldbreaker Hulk, and we didn't see him for like 8 years. And then when Green Scar eventually did come back, he never used the Worldbreaker Hulk form. And that's the case with all of these powered up versions. Rune King Thor, Merge Sentry, you name it, these forms are not readily available for everyone to go into. If Earth is just invaded out of nowhere and people just start getting blown up and murdered and all this kind of stuff, the heroes are not prepared for this. Hulk cannot turn into Hulk immediately, punch the fucking planet and blow it up. He's not capable of doing it. No Earth hero is capable of doing it. It is not a casual feat for anybody. That's my point. In fact, if you're going to be honest, the thing that makes Earth so dangerous in the Marvel Universe isn't actually its physical powerhouses, it's its scientific advancement. Characters like Tony Stark and Reed Richards are far better at defending the Earth from shit than the massive powerhouses are. I mean, people always talk about World War Hulk, how Hulk showed up and took on literally every single hero on Earth, which is only possible because the vast majority of heroes on Earth aren't actually that strong. But no one talks about the end, how Tony instantly one-shot the most powerful version of Hulk because he built a space laser that when it hit him immediately dissipated all gamma radiation in the Hulk's body, turning him back into Bruce Banner, and he passed out. That's the type of shit that makes Earth so dangerous. The fact that you have all of these incredible geniuses who can come up with all these plans and technology and defenses for Earth that a lot of these sort of alien species have a really hard time dealing with. They're prepared for a lot of different types of invasion because they've dealt with a lot of different types of invasion in the past. But anytime they have an invasion come towards them that they're not prepared for, like for instance in Absolute Carnage, when Carnage tried to take over Manhattan, he succeeded pretty casually and defeated all of the Avengers and all of the Earth's greatest heroes because they've never had to deal with it before. And if they've never dealt with it before and it's not something that they're actually prepared for, they have a really hard time getting around it. Also, it's important to note that Tony Stark had that laser that could dissipate gamma from the start of the World War Hulk storyline, but didn't use it until the very end. And there's no story reason given whatsoever of why he waited so long to use it. It's really just bad writing. Like, he should have opened up with that, but instead Tony decided to get into a Hulkbuster armor and go fight Hulk in a fist fight because that's cooler to read about, I guess, than just a space laser that instantly wipes out your opponent. Whatever. I actually might be one of the few people who thinks that Planet Hulk and World War Hulk are not the best written stories. But anyway, I could talk about this forever. Let's get to the actual Conquerors. First up on the chopping block, we have the Viltrumite Empire. The all-powerful, galaxy-spanning empire of 50 people. Oh, by the way, spoiler warning, I guess. Look, if you read the title of this video and got this far in it without realizing there was going to be spoilers, you might be kind of dumb. So this one's kind of odd because I've sort of already talked about this before on the channel. I made a Would They Survive the Viltrumite Empire video, and in that video, Earth was one of the places that they invaded, and I talked about it. But I'm not really satisfied with how I dealt with that, because in that video I had Marvel basically whooping the Viltrumite Empire's ass pretty easily because I was acting as if all of the characters on Earth were at their absolute strongest points, and the fact of the matter is that there's no point in Marvel Comics where that was ever the case. There's never been a single time in all of Marvel Comics where you had Sentry who was Merge Sentry, and Hulk who was Worldbreaker Hulk, and Thor who was Rune King Thor, and all these characters were all there at the same time with all these different powers. That's just not how it works. The vast majority of time these characters are at their absolute weakest, most of which aren't even capable of blowing up planets, and then you have a very, very occasional where one of them will get a massive power-up for one storyline before going back to normal. So I'm sort of redoing it in this video and going to try and make it a little more realistic to how Marvel actually is most of the time, instead of doing what, well, basically every scaler does and exaggerate Marvel's power to the most ridiculous levels in a way that the comics just has never portrayed them ever. So how will the Viltrumite Empire do if they try and invade this version of Marvel? Pretty well, actually. Like I said, there's only 50 Viltrumites, which isn't a whole lot, but the weakest of Viltrumites, the absolute weakest, are capable of shattering moons, while the most powerful, we don't really know what their upper limits necessarily are, but it took 3 of them flying through a large planet in order to destroy it. We don't know what large planet means. It could be the size of Jupiter. Maybe it's a little bigger than Earth. We don't really know, but it took 3 of them together flying through it to blow it up. Okay, cool. In theory, that should be enough to take on Marvel's Earth. The vast majority of the population, including all of the heroes, cannot blow up moons. You're talking about the very top tier of Marvel characters that can do that. And even less than that can actually blow up fucking planets. Most people I see who compare these two usually say things like Hulk can destroy planets with ease and he's multiversal and all this kind of stuff, and he would, you know, basically overcome the entirety of the Viltrumite Empire by himself. As I've already gone in detail, no, most of the time Hulk can't do that, and it usually takes more than one Marvel character to come together in order to destroy a planet. So their power levels should be relatively even. I don't entirely like Robert Kirkman as a writer. I think he has a lot of issues, but he does understand the general power levels of comic book characters and did write his top tier characters to be similar to that of top tier characters on Marvel's Earth, without doing those massive power-ups that happen once in a blue moon. If the Viltrumite took their entire empire and just invaded Earth, almost the entire planet would be completely wiped out without even really being able to fight back all that much. There aren't 50 Marvel heroes with strength enough to blow up moons. And the heroes that can't do that will not be strong enough to actually take on any of the Viltrumites. That's gonna be a fucking problem for Marvel. I mean, just go back in the timeline and see all the times that Marvel's Earth has been invaded and nearly fucking wiped out by far weaker invasions. Look at the World War Hulk storyline. Yeah, Hulk was insanely buffed in that story, but his entire army wasn't. He didn't fight every single person on Marvel's Earth. His army took on the vast majority of them, and almost none of them were able to actually take on any individual member of his army. Characters who Hulk was fighting on Sakaar, who had like above average skill and strength for that planet, were basically unstoppable when they came to Earth and had to fight against Earth heroes like Spider-Man, Iron Fist, and Daredevil. They didn't stand a chance. What's gonna happen if you start throwing Viltrumites on there? One above average Viltrumite should be able to take on basically the entire island of Manhattan by themselves, with very few, if any, heroes there that will be able to stop him. If he wants to just immediately blow up the whole island and kill everyone there, he would be able to do that. And without any preparation, there's not a whole lot that Marvel would be able to do to stop him. So what am I saying? The Viltrumite's gonna show up and immediately beat the diggity dog shit out of Earth? No, because that's not how the Viltrumites work. Like I said, there's only 50 of them. They're not like a massive galaxy-spanning empire. They don't just invade whole planets with their entire forces because they actually physically can't. They don't have the numbers to do that. In order to rule over an entire galactic empire, they kind of are forced to send one dude, kind of weaken planets, and then send a decent group to actually take it over. Their empire is very reliant on the planets that they subjugate not fighting back and essentially convincing those planets to give up their freedoms willingly. Because how else are you going to sustain countless worlds across an entire galaxy with only 50 people? Like, they can't afford to send whole armies to a single planet to deal with it, because then they won't be watching all of these other worlds. It's a whole thing in the comic. It's not really that important, but point is that they're not going to be able to do that. Instead, what they do is they send one person to the planet to systematically weaken the planet, and then once the planet is so weak it can't fight back, they offer them the choice to submit after showing that planet the power they're capable of, and that they can't possibly fight back against an entire empire of these people. So how will that work if they do the same thing to Earth? Like, let's say they sent Omni-Man to the Earth of Marvel instead of the Earth of Invincible. How would that go down? Well, it'll go down very, very differently, because Nolan will not be the strongest character on the entire planet like he was in the Invincible universe. There was literally no one who could fight against him. In the Marvel universe, there aren't that many that could fight against him, but there are a few. He absolutely will be challenged and powered by characters like Hulk and Thor and Hercules and Sentry. There's quite a few who will give him some serious fucking problems. In the Invincible universe, there was one all-powerful team that was better than all of the other heroes combined, called the Guardians, and all Nolan had to do was show up and kill all of them, and then they massively crippled Earth, and the only people who were left were people who didn't stand a fucking chance against him. That's not gonna happen in this case. Marvel does have a pseudo kind of team like that known as the Avengers, but the Avengers aren't even the strongest team Marvel has. The X-Men are considerably stronger than the Avengers are. Hell, the Dark Avengers are stronger than the Avengers are. Marvel's Earth has tons of different teams, and all of these teams have vastly different levels of power across the whole thing. They have way more heroes, and overall, it's just gonna be a lot harder to cripple the planet. Let's say Nolan does show up and try to kill all of the Avengers. To be clear, he'd be able to kill most of them. It's not even really that unusual for the Avengers to get completely wiped out by a single dude in Marvel. It happens all the time. Fucking Namor was single-handedly able to take out the entire Avengers by himself. Now, to be fair, it was like a weaker, shittier version of the Avengers. The team was made up of characters like Captain Marvel, Robbie Reyes, Ghost Rider, I think She-Hulk was in there. It was like the B-team version of the Avengers. But it isn't like things like this are not unprecedented in the Marvel Universe. It's just not as crippling to the planet as it would be to the Invincible Earth. You also have far smarter and more paranoid people on Earth in Marvel than there are in Invincible. When Omni-Man arrives at the planet and starts, doing his whole thing, pretending to be a hero and all that kind of stuff, you think characters like Tony Stark, Doctor Doom, Reed Richards, Professor Xavier are not going to prepare for the possibility that it turns against the planet? Reed and Tony do this for basically every overpowered hero that exists on Earth. I know people usually give Batman credit for this, like he prepares and he has a way to take out every single hero. The only reason why they talk about that is because there's literally a storyline that is devoted specifically to that. Was it Tower of Babel? I'm forgetting the title of that run, but they made a movie about it too. It was called Justice League Doom. It's where Batman had a plan to take out every member of the Justice League, and those plans were stolen. And that storyline is relatively popular, and that's why people know this. But the truth is that there's a lot of characters in Marvel that do that too. Tony Stark, Reed Richards, and Doom are infamous for this in the Marvel comics. They have preparations for basically every person that exists on Earth. Like I said, Tony has a fucking satellite in space that shoots out a laser that dissipates all gamma energy to instantly take out the Hulk if he ever turned against planet Earth. The entire reason why Planet Hulk and World War Hulk even happened was because Reed came up with a plan to get Hulk off of Earth because he didn't trust Hulk on the planet anymore. They were able to successfully capture him and send him off world. And if it wasn't for Meek, that would have worked. Hulk would have never returned to Earth. But the most crippling weakness that the Viltrumites have is just how long it takes them to invade a planet. Like I said, if they just show up and start attacking the planet, they'll do fairly well. I'm not saying they would win, but they would wipe out a large majority of Earth's population before they went down, and very likely destroy the planet. However, not only do they not just show up, but they take years to invade. In the Invincible universe, they let it slip that they have a Viltrumite there preparing the world for invasion super early on, and they don't actually invade the planet until several years later. Mark goes from being a teenager to like a grown fucking man by the time the Viltrumites actually show up. They're pretty arrogant and are perfectly okay with allowing the planet to know that they're coming before they are, because they truly believe that there's no one in the entire galaxy that can stop them from invading a planet that they want. Marvel's Earth is not the kind of place you want to give several years to prepare for your arrival. There are so many different ways that they could wipe out your whole army before you ever get there, and the only strength the Viltrumites would have is that they get to initiate the invasion how they want to, and they should do it immediately. Do you have any idea how many ways Marvel Earth has to kill all the Viltrumites if you give them the time to prepare? Okay, a couple off the top of my head. Xavier uses Cerebro to shut off the brains of every single Viltrumite that shows up to the planet before they even fucking arrive there. That is something he can do. Aren't Viltrumites weak to sound? Black Bolt will have a fucking field day. He could probably wipe out 80% of the population with a single yell. How about if Reed Richards makes a big ass fucking gamma bomb and just decides to launch it at the Hulk before launching the Hulk into space at them, and then just watch from Earth as Hulk rips through their entire fucking army? I'm a little behind in Marvel Comics, but isn't there a big ass metal box in Parker Industries that has the power Cosmic trapped inside? That was there a couple years ago, and if it still is, they could just give that shit to literally any hero or multiple heroes on Earth, make them a cosmic version of themselves, and just send them up to instantly one-shot every fucking Viltrumite up there. They will become vastly more powerful than the Viltrumites can deal with. At the end of the day, when you look at the Viltrumites, they're not really good conquerors. They're only good conquerors to worlds that they are significantly more powerful than, and they're not significantly more powerful than the planet Earth. There are a lot of characters that they're not even capable of killing. The Invincible universe doesn't really have characters that have really great regen. I mean, yes, the Immortal can come back to life, but with assistance and shit. There's no one like Sentry or Hulk that can just continuously regen no matter how much you damage them. Sentry and Hulk can literally come back from being fucking deleted. The Viltrumites cannot kill them, even if they do blow up the planet. How long do you think it would take for an enraged Hulk that just saw his planet get destroyed to hunt down and kill all the Viltrumites? Probably not long. How long do you think it would take Sentry? Again, probably not long. So yeah, this is a complete fucking wash. Not even close. While in a perfect world, the Viltrumites can do serious damage to Earth and even possibly come close to conquering it, they can't really ever do it. Even if they did do it immediately, there's still certain characters they can't deal with. And since they literally aren't capable of doing it immediately and never do, a prepared Marvel Earth is going to be way too much for them to deal with. They're done. Next up, we have the Primers from Earth Defense Force. And these guys are kind of different. They're unique. So many years from now, trillions and trillions of years from now, the Primers will eventually come into being on Mars. They don't actually currently exist. But once they do exist, they evolve very quickly and upgrade their technology very quickly, and they eventually get the ability to time travel, which they utilize a lot for nothing. They just start traveling all across the timeline, different worlds and places, and just fuck it off, basically. Just doing it. You ever seen Pirates of the Caribbean? You know how Barbossa tells a story about how they stole the cursed gold and then just went and started spending it and all that shit, and then they realized, oh fuck, we spent it all, we gotta go get all of it back to cure our curse? Kind of a similar situation here. With all of this time traveling fuckery, they end up influencing a bunch of other planets and species, and because of that influence, they endanger their own existence. So one of the planets they influence is Earth, you know, it's right there, right next to Mars. And because of their influence, Earth evolves in a different way and starts to get technology at a much faster rate. This will eventually lead Earth to colonize Mars and be a multiplanetary species, and because Earth colonizes Mars, the Primers never come into existence because they can't evolve on that planet anymore since it's already taken over by Earth. Basically, by positively influencing Earth, they endanger their own existence. So their answer to this is to go to war with Earth and wipe out the entire human species so that they don't eventually go to colonize Mars and the Primers can exist. So this is a very different situation than we're used to because the Primers aren't evil conquerors. They're just dumb and trying to fix a mistake they made. In reality, this crossover really doesn't make any sense because the Primers wouldn't normally invade Marvel's Earth if Marvel's Earth isn't a threat to them in any way. But I don't care. I still want to talk about it. So what would happen if the Primers invaded Earth? It's sort of a weird situation because I don't think that Marvel's Earth can defeat the Primers. Not because they're not powerful enough to do so, they are. Like, there's nobody in the Primers that's physically strong enough to actually compete with Hulk, Sentry, or, I mean, even like mid-tier Marvel characters. Like, Spider-Man could probably deal with a lot of shit that Primers throw at them. The problem is the Primers' ability to control time basically makes them completely unstoppable. Because what the Primers like to do is to travel all across the entire timeline and pull out a bunch of random creatures and beings and things from basically everywhere, every timeline, every fucking place they've ever been to, and then just start chucking it at the planet they're trying to invade. So just to give you an example of what we're talking about, there's this character known as the Nameless, which is basically like the Primer leader. He's the most powerful Primer. He's like their god. They throw him at the EDF in Earth Defense Force 5. The EDF defeats him and kills him, and everything's all good. So what do the Primers do? Well, they go to a farther point more in the future of a different timeline and grab that same dude, the Nameless, but he's more evolved and with more technology because he's literally billions of years older, and then take him and chuck him at EDF as well. And they could just kind of keep doing this. Okay, so just to give you an idea, let's say that we went to war with Vikings, and for whatever reason, the Vikings were kicking our ass, right? If we were the Primers, we would then be able to go into the year 2200 and then grab whatever technology and people we have there and chuck those at the Vikings. Okay, Vikings kill them. Let's go into 2700. Let's go into 3200. And we just keep going farther and farther and farther with better technology and overall better military, and just keep throwing it at them over and over again forever with no limit. The difference between the primers and us is not only are the primers immortal, but they also evolve within individual lifespans. Humans can't do that. If we want to evolve, we have to wait for generations and generations and generations of breeding for us to adapt to our surroundings and shit like that. We can adapt to small stuff within a lifetime, but not like everything. The primers can do that to everything. They're basically like Doomsday or something with their ability to evolve. This basically means that any war that you want to start with the primers is going to be an infinite war that you can't possibly win, because it's just a matter of time before they go far enough in the timeline where they can overcome you. And it doesn't matter how you change the timeline, because they can just jump into another one. So it's never even too late for them to come back from any particular war. They sound like they're basically unstoppable. How the EDF stops them is they end up gassing the entire planet of Mars, which makes it completely uninhabitable, which means the primers will never exist. But because they only gas the planet of Mars because the primers show up in the first place, they create a time paradox, and time itself, who is kind of like a living creature in the EDF universe, basically says, okay, this is bullshit. You guys are fucking up the timeline. We're just gonna pick someone in the primers and a small group of warriors in the EDF. You guys fight it out, and whoever wins, I'm erasing the other species from existence. And that's basically what happens. The Nameless fights against Storm Team 6. Storm Team 6 overcomes the Nameless, and then time just erases them because it's tired of dealing with all the bullshit. So can Marvel's Earth do something similar and basically destroy Mars or fuck it up in such a way that the primers can never exist there? I don't think so, because how would they even figure that shit out? In EDF, we don't actually see how they figure it out. They just sort of get intel that these people are from Mars, and they just fucking bomb Mars. Mars right there, they do it, and then they kind of fuck themselves by causing a time paradox. But if we go over to Marvel, even if the smartest scientists in all of Marvel, like Reed and Tony and all these characters, do figure out that, well, these guys are from Mars, and they decide to gas bomb and do the same thing and destroy Mars. Okay, cool, but the primers aren't from their universe. They're from a totally different version of Mars, in a totally different universe, a totally different timeline. So that wouldn't actually do anything. And Marvel, as well as EDF, are infinite universes. There's an infinite number of timelines in EDF as far as we're aware, and there's an infinite number of timelines and universes in Marvel. So how would they even find out where the primers came from? There really wouldn't be any way. EDF didn't have this problem because Mars was right fucking there. They were all from the same timeline. We see it. It's right there. Look, right over there. Marvel has no way of doing that, so they can't deal with that option. So what I think is going to end up happening is just an eternal war, basically. They're not going to be able to stop the primers ever. The only way they would be able to deal with them is if they can somehow erase every primer that exists across all timelines in the past, present, and future all at the same time, which they do have existence erasure weapons, but not to that extent. It just erases them currently. It doesn't like erase them across all timelines and everything else. And if you can't erase them across all timelines and all time periods, then you can't deal with the fucking problem. But at the same time, even the absolutely strongest primers that we see don't even come close to the high mid-tier Marvel heroes. So will they ever be able to win? No, probably not. But they can't really lose entirely either, you know? Like, the primers don't even have the technology to blow up the planet. That's not something they're ever shown being able to do. Could they just keep going into the future until they get that technology and then just blow up the planet? I guess, but I would have to start giving them levels of power they're never shown to have, and they reach pretty fucking far into the future already. So we don't even know if they ever get the technology to actually do that, and I don't want to give them that because that would be kind of a stretch. Theoretically, yeah, I guess it's possible. They can go, I don't know, fucking quadrillion of years into the future and eventually find a version of themselves that can just casually blow up planets and erase life from the planet. Maybe at some point, I guess, if that ever happens. But if that doesn't, they're just going to be another alien race that just continuously tries to invade Earth and just fails over and over again. So yeah, I'm going to say eternal war with a possibility that they can go far enough in the future to get something that could actually destroy the entire planet. Well, no, actually, you know what? I'm wrong. Because in EDF, they don't just use their own technology. They also use future versions of technology that the humans have. Like, they go super far into Earth's future and grab a bunch of fucking ants that have evolved to be the size of houses and start chucking that at the EDF. If they can go back and forth across all of Marvel's timeline, they would have access to literally every weapon and every piece of technology that Marvel has. So what's actually going to end up happening is that the primers are going to get significantly more advanced than normal, However, Marvel can also travel through time, so they'll probably end up noticing what they're doing and start doing the same thing. Then it'll just turn into a massive time-traveling arms race where both of them are traveling into the future to get better and better technology and sending it back so they can keep fighting this continuous war. And Marvel's Earth will eventually become the most powerful planet in the entire Marvel universe because it's in a fucking galactic time-traveling arms race. That's what happens when you're in an arms race. You become the most powerful thing ever. So yeah, does Primers win? No. But they are going to make Marvel's Earth vastly more powerful. So there you go, guys. Everybody keeps saying there's no pros to war. Welcome to the channel. Next up, we have Frieza and the Frieza Force from the Dragon Ball universe. I was originally pretty excited about this one, and then that excitement quickly deflated when I realized that this is basically going to go the exact same way the Viltrumites went, just way worse, if that makes any sense. You know what I'm saying? While Frieza and the Frieza Force are considerably more powerful than the Viltrumites, and they're very different characters, the weaknesses that Frieza and the Frieza Force have are basically the exact same, just not quite as bad. The Viltrumites' weakness is that they will not invade the planet immediately, and they'll give Marvel way too much time to prepare and to fight back for them. And then once they do invade the planet, once they destroy it all, they're actually not capable of killing everyone, so they'll have like a really badass team of Avengers that are going to come after them once that planet is destroyed that will absolutely be able to kill them. Basically, exact same issue with Frieza. Although it's not going to be because Frieza's not capable of taking over the planet immediately, but this dude really likes to dick around when he shouldn't. Every single arc that we have that Frieza's the bad guy of, he takes way too long to get to the point and to actually take over the planet and kill the people he needs to kill. If he really wanted to, he could have killed Vegeta, Goku, Piccolo, all of them at the very start of the Namek saga, but he didn't because he just chose not to. Instead, he just kept sending all of his men out so they can beat him up one by one and get stronger throughout the arc. And then eventually when he did go and fight him, he didn't go into his final form, and he just kept toying with them for really long periods of time, giving them all the ability to power up during their fight. And you'd think he would have learned his lesson, but when they reintroduce him, not only as Cyborg Frieza, but also Golden Frieza, he basically does the exact same shit. He doesn't just kill the people he's supposed to kill. He toys with them for way too long and completely avoids fighting them himself unless he absolutely has to, seemingly out of arrogance and laziness. So what'll happen if the Frieza Force shows up on Marvel's Earth to take it over? The exact same thing with the Viltrumites. Literally the same thing. It'll be way harder for Marvel to fight back because the Frieza Force are more powerful than the Viltrumites, and Frieza is far more likely to blow up the planet than Thrag is, and Frieza is far more likely to blow up the planet than Thrag is because it'll just be easier for him to do it. But at the end of the day, it's still the same situation. He's still going to take too long. They're still going to have time to prepare while they're fighting all of his underlings. And then once he finally steps up to fight himself, one of two things are going to happen. Either Marvel's Earth has gotten strong enough while fighting all of his people due to things like Hulk having to fight all these underlings and getting slowly stronger and stronger and stronger because that's how his fucking powers work, until he'll be strong enough to actually take on Frieza and possibly beat him before he could blow up the planet. Or, more likely, he'll just blow up the planet the moment he starts to lose, if that even happens. He might just blow up the planet just because it's just what he does. And then once he does that, you'll still have the same situation. He won't be able to kill Sentry, he won't be able to kill Hulk, he won't be able to kill Ghost Rider. There will be several characters that blowing up the planet will not kill, and that he himself is actually not capable of killing. The powers that are necessary to permanently put down Sentry, Hulk, and Ghost Rider do not exist in the Dragon Ball universe. These are characters that you can literally erase from existence and they will still come back. And you'll have basically the most powerful, most pissed off Avengers group you've ever seen coming after Frieza and the Frieza Force, and at that point, they'll be able to fucking kill him. Because now they'll have massive amounts of prep time, they can prepare themselves, and for characters like Hulk and Sentry, they'll be super pissed, which has been shown in the past to make them insanely powerful. So Frieza and the Frieza Force are ahead of the Viltrumites, because they won't give Earth quite as much time to prepare as the Viltrumites will. The Viltrumites will literally give them years, and Frieza will probably give them days, maybe weeks tops. And Frieza is far more likely to blow up the planet, but at the end of the day, it's just a more extreme version of what would happen if the Viltrumites invaded. But basically identical situations. Last up, but certainly not least, we have Skeletor, and I'm not even gonna bother hiding it. I don't think that Marvel's Earth can survive against Skeletor at all. I don't even think it's going to be close. To give you an idea of just how powerful Skeletor is, even in his absolute weakest form. You know that big ass staff he has, really awesome one with the skull and shit, looks like a shaman staff? Yeah, he forged that. When he was forging, every time his hammer beat on it, it created so much force that it began blowing up planets all across the universe with every individual hit. The souls of all of the people who lived on these planets then got sucked into his staff to empower it. This is the basic bitch most weakest form of Skeletor. This is while he was forging the staff. When he actually has the staff, he's stronger. And this isn't including the powered up versions of him. I honestly believe that you could put Skeletor on planet Earth even with powered up versions of Marvel characters, and it's gonna be a fucking problem for Marvel. He is that much of a threat. And if you know a little bit about He-Man, you might be thinking that he's actually not that big of a deal, because why can't he take over one planet, just Eternia, and why is He-Man always capable of overcoming him? Well, that's actually pretty simple. He-Man is completely immune to any form of magic working on him. Skeletor's whole thing is magic. If he's against literally anybody else that isn't He-Man, he can immediately erase them from existence, turn them into some sort of inanimate object, take over their minds, corrupt their souls, do whatever he wants to do. He's one of those characters that can do literally anything he wants to do via magic. In terms of his magical ability, it is far superior to that of any mage in all of Marvel Earth. Even the Sorcerer Supreme, Doctor Strange, does not have magical ability up to par with someone like Skeletor. But on top of that, Skeletor is also physically powerful enough to trade blows with He-Man, who is one of the physically strongest characters in fiction. In terms of physical strength, Skeletor at base should be able to box fucking Thanos and win. Masters of the Universe is a universe where all of the characters are basically gods. They are masters of a particular domain of the universe that they live in. Even the absolute most bullshit, weakest Masters of the Universe within the series that we all laugh at, like Merman, still has the powers to control all the oceans in the universe and all sea life. He has physical strength high enough to chuck mountains at the moon. He makes Aquaman look like a bitch, and he's one of the weakest masters of the universe. Skeletor is one of the absolute strongest. The only person that can overcome him is He-Man. That's it. Within the story of Masters of the Universe, Skeletor is capable of taking over the entire infinite multiverse. He just doesn't like how fucking long it's gonna take him to do that, so he wants the power of Grayskull that will give his power far more range so that he can take over and dominate literally all of existence. The entire storyline of Masters of the Universe is about one guy, He-Man, a dude who is immune to magic and physically stronger than Skeletor, being the only thing stopping Skeletor from getting into Castle Grayskull and using the power within that castle to literally bring about the death of everything across all of existence. The problem here is Marvel Earth does not have an equivalent for He-Man to stop Skeletor. When he shows up with his army, honestly, I'm not even 100% sure I have to give him his army, but I've given everyone else their army, so let's give him his army too. That would include characters like Beastman, who has also gone blow for blow with He-Man. Evil Lyn, who would also be a superior mage to any mage that lives on planet Earth in Marvel, and many, 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 many more. If Skeletor wanted to, he could show up on the planet, wave his fucking staff around, and just turn half the planet into fucking zombies if he wanted to. He can erase them all from existence. He can do literally anything he wants. There's only a couple of characters that wouldn't immediately be killed by this. It's not even gonna be the same situation it was with Frieza, where if Frieza shows up and blows up the Earth, he's gonna have like a super pissed off version of the Avengers coming after him that's now like super powerful. That's not really much of a threat to Skeletor, even if that did happen. For one, it's not even a 100% thing that Skeletor can even die, since he doesn't even have things like organs or a brain. He's just an empty, undead shell that is powered by magic. You can do literally anything you want to his body, and he can just keep bringing himself back. But let's say that does happen. Let's say Skeletor shows up on Earth, tries to take it over, they fight back, he decides to just blow up the whole fucking planet and leave. Okay, then the Avengers are formed, and they come after him, and they're all in their most powerful versions. You got the most powerful version of Ghost Rider, Hulk, Sentry, like every single person you could think of. All of the most powerful characters that can survive a planet exploding all come at him. We'll fucking throw Gladiator and Hyperion, even though Hyperion's not really an Earth hero. We could throw him in there too, whatever. Throw them all in there. Well, you're still only dealing with the base version of Skeletor. There's also Master of Death Skeletor, who is a god who controls the concepts of life and death to his whim, and pretty much anything he thinks of just instantly happens. This is a version of him that's not that hard to actually get to. Then you have the fact that he's a master tactician, the fact that he's very good at understanding magics even from other realms, and oftentimes will take artifacts and different sources of power and add that to his own to give himself more power. This means that he will absolutely search out things like the power cosmic, like the old power, and absorb those powers into his own, making himself even more powerful. He will become one of, if not the most dangerous characters in the entire universe. I've made this comparison before, but he's similar to Thanos in a lot of ways, except he has way better magic and is physically superior. Thanos does have the tech side of his character, which is way better than what Skeletor has, but in terms of how they operate, they're actually very similar characters. Skeletor shouldn't even really be here. He is not just a planetary threat. He is a multiversal level threat. There isn't really a universe you can put him in that he doesn't become one of the most dangerous things there. His kryptonite is He-Man himself, and without He-Man, there's really not a whole lot that could stop him. He's awesome. He's better than Thanos. He's better than Frieza. He's better than freaking Darkseid. Fight me. But that's going to be all for me. Hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, share, and join the membership. Remember, if you join the membership, you get videos early. And always remember, y'all stay safe out there, you hear?